Excellent. We're on YouTube and Facebook. Going to give it a quick second and silence phone so we don't get interrupted. Okay, perfect. I've shared it where I needed to. If you all are hopping on and you can see us fine and hear us, give us a thumbs up and a comment. Let us know that you are tuned in and ready for us to get this broadcast started. I'm going to start pulling up some comments as I get them in. So if you are interested in seeing your lovely name and profile picture displayed, be sure that you comment on here for us as well. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning and happy Monday to everybody. I am excited for this week. I feel rested and rejuvenated. Before we hopped on here, I shared with the mayor, I had a nice girls weekend on Saturday, and it was just really energizing and not felt giddy in probably this long since COVID kicked off. So I am Juliette Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for hopping onto our live broadcast. Our previous attendees and our new, we welcome you. Be sure that you hit that like button, the notifications bell, so that you can get alerts that we are live whenever we post content or go on these broadcasts as well. Find us on all of our social platforms. We're on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Westy Chamber and Westminster Chamber of Commerce on YouTube as well. And for those of you that have never tuned in and this is your first time coming on here with us, we are blessed every week to kick off with our mayor, Mayor Herb Atchison, who gives us updates from his lens on what's going on in our city, around our community, things that we should know from state level that have kind of trickled down to our local municipalities as it relates to COVID. We then carry on throughout the rest of the week with business success stories, open for business opportunities that are around the area, people that you can frequent and support during this time. We highlight nonprofits through our nonprofit corner. So last week we had the Westminster Legacy Foundation, and then we round out and close out the week usually with an elected official, someone in an administrative capacity, or one of our national partners. So last week you may have been with us when we had U.S. Chamber of Commerce, John Gonzalez, with us sharing kind of what we're partnering with them on the national level, from social issues to advocacy efforts as well. If you have a comment or question, please be sure that you type it into the comment section of this broadcast so that we can pull it up like we've done here with Wayne. Hello to you, Wayne. Good morning, and thank you for sending us a nice start for both the mayor and myself. Ari, thank you as well for hopping on. Good morning to you. Peter Brissett, I see you on here as well. It looks like we have Councillor Scully sharing her good morning to both myself and the mayor. Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us, Councillor. I've seen you on for the last several broadcasts, so it's always nice to see your face. And one of our past chairmen, Sean Kaiser, thank you as well for coming on here with us. So I don't want to leave anyone out, but if you end up watching some of the information from this video on my wall and you're like on my timeline, you see it and you comment, I actually won't see those comments on my wall. So make sure that you transfer it to the actual Facebook page where the Westminster Chamber is so I can give you the kudos and love that you deserve. With that being said, I'm going to mute myself and the mayor will get started with some of the information he has on his plate.
Well, good morning, Juliette, and good morning, everyone. I'm not sure where to start this morning, whether it's with the fake news, bad news, good news, or bad news. So we'll kind of cover a little bit of all of it. This past week has seen a lot of controversy coming up, not only around facial coverings, but also the police bill that has gotten a lot of controversy around the state. I want to go back to a couple of incidents that took place last week, and this started with the city of Greenwood Village, where they issued a council decision that they were going to indemnify police officers on their call, regardless of the actions. And that has stirred up a lot of controversy in the fact that it could be interpreted, and by some it was, that if an officer willingly and harmfully knew they were violating the law, that the city of Greenwood Village was going to indemnify them, which is against the law as it's currently stated. So this kicked off a lot of immediate reaction out of the legislature. Coincidentally, with that, the city of Westminster had issued a letter that was on our website, has been for several days now, that talks about how we plan to support our police officers and what we will do and what we won't do. Now, let me be clear. This letter was reviewed not only by our city attorney and staff to make sure we were in compliance with 217, but to make sure that everybody could understand what it says. Well, we thought we did anyway. So a media group contacted the Attorney General's office last week to indicate that they were interpreting the letter that we put out to be in violation of the law. This letter was again reviewed by the Attorney General's office, re-reviewed by our city attorney's office, and the media groups that were doing the inquiry were all told by both groups that Westminster is in full compliance with the legal requirements under 217. However, at least one group, CPR, went ahead and published an article that said that we were not and brought into question what we were doing. Now, they have since issued a second article that I have been told, I have not seen it myself, but I've been told that it says that we are in compliance, but they did not retract the initial one, which has still caused people to not know that there's a second email or a second notice out there. But let me assure everyone that the city of Westminster is in compliance with the law. We are in support of our police officers, and we will do everything we can to protect them within the law. So going back to Greenwood Village, one of the things that their statement made, which also raised issues at the Attorney General's office, is the Attorney General at this time does not have any standing with the ability to do anything about what Greenwood Village has stated they're going to do until they do something that violates the law. So there's a big piece in there that talks about the fact that they're going to do something, but they've not actually done it. Until they do something to violate the law itself, there really is no standing for anyone to take. However, as I said earlier, the legislature took a very dim view of the statement was made, and already it's my understanding drafting a reaction to that for next year's legislative session. As Juliet and I were talking, my concern is there's going to be a reaction from the legislature that could compound the law we already have and cause more harm. I would ask the legislature just to be calm. No one's done anything yet. So don't try to find a solution to a problem you don't have. We don't need more legislation pushed through the legislation that is fast and doesn't give a proper thought and time for comments before you take something. So we'll see where that goes. That's not until January, so we have some time for people to calm down and try to take some of the emotions out of it. Another thing people like to see is news drops that happen on Friday night so that there's not time for people to react. Well, this occurred with us. We now have a new public health order out of Tri-County Health. This was dropped on Friday, and it affects Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas. Now, over the news cycle you've heard since over the weekend, Douglas County has announced that they plan to pull out of the Tri-County Health Department. They want to form their own board. Well, I'm not sure under the IGA that they currently have with the other two counties if they can even do that. That is yet to be seen. But it was kind of interesting that they want to pull out to form their own board, but all the people who make the technical recommendations to the board, they want to keep all those people so that they don't have to pay to set up a true health department as they've been indicated in their public comments. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But I would anticipate, since this is a shared cost piece in Tri-County, that they have to have the approval of the other two partners in order to pull out. And more so, why would your partners agree to let you set up a separate board but keep all your employees the same as you have today and not have to pay for it? So again, a lot of angst, a lot of emotions that happened over the weekend that are still going on. Jefferson County and Adams, as we all know, are both in. So the Tri-County order that was issued on Friday goes into effect on July the 24th. There are some changes from what it was before. It will also have a potential impact to the city of Westminster's facial covering requirements. Since the order came out late Friday after business hours, our city attorney's office has only started this morning to review that, And it may be next week before we have a recommendation from the city attorney's office as to what changes, if any, let me provide, if any, need to be done to what we are currently at. We are again encouraging Jefferson County to get on board with, so that we are again not split with two different directives from two different health departments. There is a conversation that is already going on between the county commissioners and the health department. The mayors are asking people to look at what one is doing so we are compatible to the other. One of our neighbors to the south of us here in Jefferson County, the city of Golden, did an emergency order on Thursday night. They have taken this to the next step. They were already under mandatory mask requirement or facial covering requirement for anything that entered into any of the facilities owned by the city of Golden. That was now expanded to all businesses within the city of Golden, and a mandate that businesses must enforce the facial covering rule, or they could face a fine or a potential of a revocation of their business license. So we need to be sure that we're trying to keep people, let's be consistent with what we're doing within our counties and with our health departments. Jefferson County has not had their first meeting. I had some communication with them over the weekend. This is all something that they're looking at. But the indication of the response I saw on Sunday is that Dr. Johnson is looking at, if we're going to control this, and we're going to try to move to the next level, as we talked about in last Monday's session, of moving to protect our neighbors, the likelihood is there's going to be some level of advancement in requiring facial coverings. For Jefferson County, we do not know what that is. We don't know how soon they will make that decision, but it's my understanding that's probably going to be a point of discussion at the Board of County Commissioners meeting tomorrow morning. He's on the agenda, but he's the very last one on the agenda. So if you'd like to listen in for about 3 or 4 hours, he's at the tail end of the agenda. There's just a lot of things continuing to move. We still encourage people to use facial coverings at all times when you're out in the public, social distancing, anywhere you can. But please, again, remember, there are those people in our community that cannot use facial coverings. Please respect that. I don't ask that you challenge. In fact, I encourage you not to challenge people. If somebody says they can't wear it, leave it alone. Let the business handle it. We don't need to be responding to police calls because you got into an argument and it became an issue that's going to now require our patrol officers to pull off and come intercede in an argument. Let the business handle the issue. Let the business deal with the customer. That's not my place as a customer in the store to go deal with another one. So we ask you, please bear with us on that. If you have questions about these mask orders and the facial coverings, watch the website on the COVID-19 pieces on the city. As soon as any decisions are made about whether or not we are going to make a change, that will get posted to the city website, but it'll also be something that if we have to change, it will be a council action to make the change so that it's consistent throughout the city. We do not want to be split. I don't want Juliet to take calls from one customer who's in Adams County and another one in Jefferson County and want to know why I'm being treated differently. We want to be consistent with how we apply these rules across the city. But if we get a mask order or a facial covering order that is more stringent than what we have today under the health department rules, we will have to follow those. So give us a few days. The Adams County one doesn't kick in until July the 24th. We will know where we're at before that, and we'll get the information out to the public as soon as we can. Juliet, I think I've stirred up enough.
You did in such a short time. I think we're getting better at this. Well, a quick shout out to several folks. I see Councillor DeMott and Bowles have hopped on as well. Nikki, good morning. Thank you for noticing. Ann Hogan, hello to you. Parker Brown, it looks like we have Bob, Kim Llewellyn, Dave Carpenter, Vanessa DeMott. If I've forgotten you, drop me a comment so I can make sure that I give you that shout out that you deserve. Mayor has touched on a few different things this morning. We shared a little bit about Senate Bill 217, which was the law enforcement bill that passed the legislature this past session, that now looks to have some local frictions with other municipalities. There are false rumors that are going around that we have attempted to educate you about and let you know that they are false information about the full letter that we have released supporting Senate Bill 217. It's on the City of Westminster's webpage. We'll also pull the link. I believe we had shared it before, but we'll pull it again and then include it in this broadcast for those of you that are interested in seeing it. We have a few different comments, and then you know me, I always have questions for you. So I'll loop back around to those. Kim Llewellyn, good morning to you as well. Thank you for that sunshine that you're sending our way and for also participating in the Westy Rise Shop local campaign. We appreciate your involvement in that. Councillor Bowles shares his thanks and appreciation to both our chamber and to you as well, Mayor Atchison, for providing these important updates to our community. And I want to say not just our community, we have a lot of people that are outside of Westminster that always tune into our broadcast. Heck, we had international viewers at one point as well. Now, I challenge anyone else that has live broadcasts to tell me if they have that large of a footprint. And then Councillor Demont also shares, you know, thank you for reminding us that some people cannot wear face masks coverings. And I think that's that was a really nice point that you had made, Mayor. We're seeing some people that are getting very emotional and heated when they see somebody not wearing the mask, you know, and they're going out of their way to confront them. And it just creates a situation that is not good all around. And so have the business handle that, especially if it's taking place on their property or their location as well. I think I've touched most of the comments. So back to the mandate that we see over in Golden, and I believe that this was probably to try and get them closer to that protect our neighbor. Is that right, Mayor Atchison? When we talked about this last week, we shared how the state phase is not necessarily a phase that we've all moved into, all communities, but it's something that counties can opt into. And to do so, they would likely follow, it was about 8 different parameters, one of which had to deal with some sort of face covering. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's 2 parts in there, Julia, as you recall. One is there's a qualifying phase, and that's the one where there's 8 different steps that the county must be able to prove that they actually do qualify. If they are found to be in qualification with the ability to move, then they have to provide a mitigation plan of how they're going to fall back if something arises. In that, item 3 of the mitigation plan is there has to be a way in there to show that counties will increase mask wearing in public settings. Well, that's exactly what Tri-County did this past Friday. And that's what they will be dealing with that goes into effect on the 24th. Without meeting these requirements, under both the qualifying piece and the mitigation plan, the county or that health department, depending on how you're set up, does not have the ability to move to the next step of protect our neighbors. Without that, the ability for us to help businesses open up more, let people like Parker go to more than 50 people in his restaurant or anybody else, or to have to be forced to go outside the restaurant and then have to deal with this thing called Colorado weather that you just never know what it's going to do. So even if restaurants apply for and get the patio extensions, basically, there's no way we can guarantee, and nor can they guarantee their customer, that you could just sit down for a hot meal and all of a sudden a windstorm comes up, rain, snow, hail, anything. What do I do with my customers then? Because I can't bring them inside because I'm already at my limit. Well, we just ruined their dining experience. And that's what nobody wants to do. We want people to go out, enjoy themselves, do the proper mask coverings, face coverings, however you want to refer to it. But also, we want them to be safe and not take this around. Regardless of the age group, we are seeing younger people still today, as we've seen in Florida, Texas, Arizona, and California. Younger age groups may not have it, but they are spreading it according to our CDC reports. So we have to continue to watch what's going on with everybody. But to your point, we have got to move our community to the next phase to get us reopened. We are looking to get people back to work without them being able to open. And we've seen this. 2 of our hotels have been closed for some period of time, that being the Hyatt Place and the Marriott. The Marriott sent us the massive layoff order 2 weeks ago. They are looking at, and I think they just started over the weekend, to try to reopen the Marriott at a 30% capacity, but not the Hyatt Place. I talked to the leadership at the Westin, and they're running at about 20% right now. But again, having these places back open, we need more businesses open. We need to be able to move to the point that we can use meeting spaces and convention space to get these groups back into our city, to bring the incomes back and return people. We still don't know what the federal government's going to do about any further extensions of the unemployment benefits, which is that $600 a week that's scheduled to run out in the next 2 weeks. We're just going to get hung up in Congress. And remember, Congress is on recess right now for the summer. We just don't know what's going to happen to the people who are dependent upon that for the income levels that they need. So we're going to keep hoping for the best. We're going to hope that Congress will act the way they need to make sure we can help as many people as we can. If you are having employees that are still looking at issues with potential evictions, especially in Westminster, then contact our resources through the city website that can help you with the legal support that your employee needs about getting evictions postponed. But the governor's 10-day moratorium has expired, but it now does go to not giving 10 days, but you still have to give 30 days notice. People who are dealing with mortgages, talk to your banks. There are programs out there today that might be able to help you. I know it's a long way to answer your question, Juliet, but we're trying to cover to make sure to remind people of everything we can of what's available to them.
I think that was great. And I love that you broke that down and explained it to folks, because it is multifaceted and it's not just one answer that's blanket for everybody. And that's one of the most important elements of what you're sharing is, being situated on 2 counties, especially for businesses that are operating in our community, it creates that confusion. And we do get those calls of, what am I allowed to do and what am I not? And the first thing that I always ask them is, where are you located? They give me the address. I'm like, okay, well, now I know that you're in this county. Here's what you have to follow as opposed to this. So there is that confusion that's there, and we're just trying to do our best in clarifying that. We have a couple of comments, and it looks like a couple of questions that are woven into. I'm going to pull this up. If it covers your face, I'm going to be sure that I read it quickly and then take it down, because everybody loves to see our faces whenever we're on here. But this comes to us from Peter. Peter is sharing in regard to the Tri-County health order that did come out on Friday. We referenced this just a few minutes ago. The mayor shared that this was just released on Friday, that our legal department at the city of Westminster is reviewing that so that they can make a comparison between what is ordered in that as opposed to what the city of Westminster already has in place. So the last component of his question is, there seems to be some confusion on this. Is the city requirements more strict than that? I would assume that this answer is yes. We follow the county, and so and that's what's going on right now, is comparing the two.
That's correct. We do have to follow the county, but at this point, the one that's proposed to start on the 24th doesn't start till the 24th. Our staff started to look at this morning. I'm sure they will be talking to the Tri-County Health Department to make sure we fully understand what the order is. And then the issue is, when do we see something from Jefferson County? Whatever, if the county is more strict than ours, then we are mandated to follow the county.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And then Peter also has a secondary, and this is just an opinion that we have more mask mandates. We should open up businesses more fully. Masks do have the evidence that they can help stop this spread or slow the spread, really. Should we allow businesses to open up fully and get everyone back to work? We can put up to 200 people on an airplane with masks, and that's fine. And I think that's been one of those more challenging pieces is, why is there some industries that are allowed to operate more than others? And so there seems to be that where some are naturally at a disadvantage as opposed to others. But when we are implementing things, then that should allow for more of that fairness and equality along our business line so that they can all have that advantage of reopening up and ensuring that. But I think when we shared protect our neighbor, Mayor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we kind of alluded to this as one of those components is that, but it would allow for a greater capacity and number of people.
That's great. Peter, your comment is very well to the point. To get past where we are today, we have to get to protect our neighbors. If we have any chance of all of increasing the occupancy of someone's business or making it more, doesn't mean the facial coverage is going away, but we have to be able to show that we can protect the people. This next step is critical for us to get there. We've got to get the eligibility stuff put together. We've got to get the mitigation plan put together. That is not going to happen over a day or two or even a couple of weeks. I would anticipate that before we get through the qualification process and we get into the mitigation plan that gets approved by the state, we're probably looking at least 2 months. And I'm being very optimistic that we can get it done that fast, because it's not something that's within the control of the city. It's under the control of the health department and the county.
Right. And hello to you, Jason Ganal. I just saw your thumbs up. Thanks for hopping on here with us. This was a great comment just to hear, Mayor, for our own reference and knowledge, that there's a fear for our businesses. And we see this, we've heard this quite a bit with even the fear of enforcement because of the backlash that might come from it, or even the consumers that are just not listening to the businesses. And the fear more often is in doing something and then have it come back on that business itself, whether it's to affect their license or their image or, their consumer reviews and things like that. So this is more of a comment from a brewery who had shared, with our outdoor temporary extension of patio space, if we do have that type of weather, which we know that we do here in Colorado, that if it does rain, that people leave their items and go just wait out in the car because they would rather have that happen than have people rush in and something else arise as a result of them trying to protect their customers from the rain back onto that business. So just for our own knowledge.
Yeah, and that's the a bit earlier that with the maximum inside, if you're at full maximum when something like that occurs, my concern is, well, what do I do with my customers who are sitting on the patio? Some just may have an umbrella, they can wait it out. To David's point, they may go sit in their car. But the last thing we want to do is jeopardize any business that is trying to comply as much as they can.
And I think that's a more important piece is, if we're seeing our business community trying and putting forth the effort, then hopefully we're not slapping them or hurting them in the process. So Wayne comes to us and he shares, there was the time the number of COVID cases were being compared to the number of deaths. I don't seem to hear that ratio anymore. Have the rules changed?
I think the big thing on there, Wayne, is that the cases of the numbers of being compared to deaths is not, because we get the infection rate, not everybody dies. And if they die, it's usually a big lag, sometimes weeks from the time they're determined to be infected to a death may occur. Hopefully we don't have any, but the problem is we do have it. The other part of that you have to look at is the hospitalizations. As we can see in some of the states along the southern borders right now, Houston, as an example, the last number I heard was they're at 90-something% of their available ICU beds, and that was over the weekend. So they may have 2 to 3% of the entire hospital capacity within the city of Houston that has availability for ICU. They are still seeing those numbers go up. We saw the one in Florida went up over 15,000 new positive cases in one day. That's a record of any city in the United States or anywhere in the world for a number of confirmed cases in a day. A lot of this still goes back to the lack of social distancing, gathering in groups where they were on the beaches and other places, and pool parties. But what's very disturbing is we had a story on a gentleman who went to a COVID party recently over the last week to see if anybody could catch it. Well, he died. Do you think he made a mistake? Do you think people were just being cavalier that this is not going to get me? I'm afraid that people are doing some really silly stuff.
Right, and there's no reason to go to either of the extreme of, isolate completely and do not have any interaction whatsoever and don't even go out and fear for every single element that you breathe in or see, and then there's nothing there, let's do whatever the heck. I mean, that's not the idea behind it. It's to be conscious of how you're feeling, and to put yourself in situations that are healthy and safe and not to the detriment of yourself or to others. And that's, I think, one of those key elements that's there. And there was at one point, both Tri-County Health did have a dashboard. I believe they built that link, Wayne. I am not sure if that's gone out. If it has, we'll pull it and put it on our COVID page. For now, we do have the Johns Hopkins one, which is more on the entire world, and it shows the United States the number of cases in addition to the number of deaths that are in the area. So if you're wanting more of the broad, again, it won't be specific to our area, but that does capture a few numbers. Sean, I think, is answering something from Dave Carpenter related to alcohol and beer, because they now are allowed to have to-go options available for our restaurants from alcohol sales. I think breweries and restaurants can allow customers to they can take it off premise. However, if it's an open container, I think that's where the friction would be. And I would throw this on the mayor to answer it, or any other attorney. So I'm not trying to interpret law.
I think Sean is correct that they are, but I think it has to be closed containers, because it's just like the carry out. I believe is where Sean is talking about, is you can, as a bar or nightclub, you can still sell alcohol, but it's for carry out, and it has to be in a closed container. A plastic cup with a lid over it, that's a closed container. I'm not sure that they still consider that if you stick a straw through the lid that it's now a closed container.
Right. If you could still have access to it, then probably not. We do have a couple more questions, if you're okay with us going over a few more minutes, and then we can close out. So this is more of a comment, and I know we are reviewing this. Our legal is in the city of Westminster, but this can be something our council kind of considers whenever we're looking at things that staff recommends. If county is more strict, can we consider opting out? So if there's two counties that have different orders that conflict, or in keeping in mind, maybe you would hold off until the other county implements something similar, or trying to have that unified so we're not, again, continually out of that balance. So that's something I'm sure you already are mindful of it. Just wanted to throw that out for you. And then this one comes to us from Ari. Ari's asking, do we have a sense of compliance for wearing masks, social distance in our areas? This was something that we saw a lot of news articles where there were people that were actually sitting in parking lots. A few different health departments who were actually having people go out there and try and monitor how many people are actually putting on masks and entering businesses. But do you have a sense of that percentage here in Westminster?
I don't know the percentage number. What I can tell you is some of the feedback. This is more so from Tri-County. We do know that they had staff in the city. I don't know where. And that we had, in the observation they had, Westminster was doing pretty good. We still have some that don't comply, or they appear not to be in compliance. Because again, if they're not wearing a mask, we don't know if they have a health issue or not. And the people who were doing these surveys did not go up and talk to people. They sat in their cars and they watched people going in and out of stores. My observation from a personal standpoint, in the businesses that I still go to on a regular basis during the week, I have seen pretty good compliance. I've also seen people that are not in compliance, but again, I don't know why, and I'm not going to ask them. But I think it's still, for the most part, people are very understanding. If you give people a good reason of why you're doing something, backed up with the facts, even though they may not agree, we typically find that they're more likely to comply with your request than to ignore it. So we are continuing to try to pass that as much as we can.
Excellent. And I believe to follow your point, it looks like Peter did go to the Tri-County once you did reference that, Mayor, and he said that they're showing our individual assessment on their website now. So it looks like they have reported based on what you were sharing, and that there is an increase from 63 to 83%. So that's good for us all to kind of know. I'm going to go ahead and close it out because I feel like we're going to keep getting bombarded with questions, but this is what happens whenever you give them a whole lot at the start, Mayor. It opens it up to a wide variety of questions. There was one that we have from Councilor DeMont. He's asking, are we going to have a health professional discuss the virus itself? Yes. I feel like you hacked my computer. I do have one of the broadcasts that I'm planning for hopefully Thursday, fingers crossed, but I have extended to try and get some more of a health expert to visit with us a little bit more in detail. We've had Westminster Medical Clinic before about how to test your employees and your customers and things like that. We've also had Tri-County Health Department, but this would be more from the business lens or the healthcare and hospital side. So yes, stay tuned for that broadcast once we do push it out. Thank you everybody that has tuned in. I know there are several of you that hopped on. seeing it on the story, seeing it on our timeline, and then here on the Facebook page. If it is your first time here, do not let it be the last. We love seeing your face. If I did not get a chance to give you a shout out, please comment so I can make sure that I give you that kudos and shout out. If you end up watching this video on replay, give us the hashtag. We actually do follow that hashtag, and once we see it, we'll comment back and thank you for tuning in. But it helps us to know what content was valuable, what people enjoyed watching, and what we should continue to bring back as well. So make sure that if you're rewatching this, that you give us that hashtag replay. And if it is your first time here, that don't let it be the last. If you're returning, we love you. Please come back once again. And then to our mayor, thank you so much for carving out generally 30 minutes. I've kept you over and I apologize for that, but carving out 30 minutes on Mondays to spend it with us and really be out in the community, visibly answering questions for people. I think that's one of the greatest advantages that we have here in our community, our ability to communicate effectively to the public. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I hope it is fantastic. Bye-bye.